If you have an LLC and you're looking for a working capital loan, what kind of options should you go for? And how do you actually get approved right off the bat? So in today's conversation, I'll talk about that. So here's an overview I want you to pay attention to. So when we talk about LLC and we're thinking about a working capital loan, right off the bat, we're thinking about a short-term loan, right? A working capital loan is by definition a short-term loan. That's the kind of loan that will help you maybe pay for inventory, maybe cover payroll, or if you have some kind of short-term needs that really needs to be taken care of real quick. This is the kind of loan you're looking for. So when you close your eyes, when you hear the term working capital loan, I want you to think about the fact that those are really a loan that has characterized by a short repayment term and smaller loan amount. You're not going to get a $1 million in working capital loan. No bank or no lender, for that matter, will ever give you. It doesn't really matter your FICO score, your personal FICO score, your business paydebt score. It doesn't matter how high it is. You will never get a $1 million or $10 million in working capital loan. Okay, so you will get probably $100,000. $50,000, $250,000. That's the maximum. So when you think about that, when you think about working capital loan, I want you to think about short term, because by definition, working capital means what? It means current asset minus current liabilities. In other words, short-term assets minus short-term liabilities. This is really important too, because I want to contextualize the conversation for you before we get into the nitty-gritty, boss. Okay. By the way, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here, to have this quick convo with you about the LLC, working capital loan. We're going to talk about how to get a working capital loan for your LLC. Okay. And so one thing I need to mention here is that you need to be very clear about your limited liability company, what kind of a short-term assets you have, and what kind of short-term liabilities you have. Because for you to get a working capital loan, you need to make sure that your short-term cash inflows are lower than your short-term cash outflows. In other words, there has to be a delta. There has to be a gap between your cash inflows and your cash outflows, and that delta will have to necessitate your need to get an LLC working capital loan. So before you even reach out to a bank, to a credit union, to an alternative lender, to an online lender and ask for an LLC working capital loan, make sure that you do your liquidity analysis first, your short-term cash flow, your cash inflows, and your cash outflows. Very important. That's the fundamental analysis you must do first. Here is a bonus for you. So how do working capital loans work for LLCs? First of all, you need to understand that when we talk about LLC working capital loans, there are pros and cons for this type of financing. The question is, should you get it? Should you not get it? Why should you get it? Why should you not get it? When should you get it? So timing. So you have cause and effect, right? Cause and effect logic. So why are you getting something, and when should you get this LLC working capital loan? I want to quickly go through the pros and cons of this type of financing, business financing, so you have a clear idea what I'm talking about, okay? Because the thing is, your business, your LLC, can use a working capital loan to pay for things like rent, payroll, and paying off debts. And if your LLC has an off season, let's say your LLC is going through some cyclicality, some seasonality, a working capital loan can keep you afloat during the months where you have drops in your income. And so what we love about the fact that we love the fact that working capital loans are very flexible. By the way, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. I'm talking to you about LLC, the best working capital loan, and how to get them. So here are the pros and working capital loans for LLCs. Pros: fast and easy. There is less paperwork required than traditional loans. You have quick cash, okay? It's not really that complicated, and you have flexible terms. Because the thing is, working capital loans for LLCs, because it has a short-term nature, banks are more flexible when it comes to the terms they actually assign to those working capital loans for your LLC. So those are the pros, okay? Fast and easy, quick cash, and flexible terms. What about the cons? What about the disadvantages? Well, you have high interest rates. You need to understand, because the repayment window is very short. Banks and lenders, for that matter, they're thinking that, hey, listen, the risk is high. Something happens if you don't pay the loan real quick, we are toast. So they will increase the interest rate. And a working capital loan can also hurt your credit, even if you apply EIN only, because what's going to happen here is that the lender might do a soft or might do a hard pull just to see that, okay, everything is fine, and you may need to provide collateral. If you're asking for a high amount, like if you're asking for, let's say, $500,000 or $1 million, and the lender believes that your credit score is not really worth it, you might need to provide some kind of collateral. Okay. Here is a review for you that I really, because I'm really trying to deepen the conversation around LLC, working capital loans, how to get approved, what are the best ones for you. If you're listening to me right now, if you are an LLC member, if you have a single member LLC, a multi-member LLC, it doesn't matter where you are at, and you are thinking about getting a working capital loan, I want you to really pay attention to this, okay? There are different types of working capital loans. Again, going back to what I said about working capital loans, what are we talking about? We're speaking about short-term capital loans, short-term business financing for your LLC. Short-term means what? You have to repay the loan within 1 year. 12 months is really the accounting threshold for short-term versus long-term. So when you hear the term short-term, it has to happen within 12 months. If you hear the term long-term, it has to happen beyond 12 months. This is the kind of numerical threshold I want you to think about. Okay, so when we talk about the types of working capital loans, you have a large typology of loans here. You have short-term loans, you have working capital lines of credit, okay? You have merchant cash advances, you have invoice financing, you have SBA loans with a short-term perspective. So the bottom line is what? The bottom line is any type of loan that has a repayment window that is inferior to 12 months can be considered, for all intents and purposes, a working capital loan. So for example, when we talk about, let's say, a merchant cash advance. So merchant cash advance is the kind of financing that you get if you have electronic sales. You go to an MCA vendor and the vendor will say, listen, okay, I have analyzed your sales for the last 3 months or for the last 6 months. So we see that you need financing. We're going to advance you something. And then we'll take your electronic sales to repay the loan. Now this is quintessentially a short-term loan, because an MCA lender will never actually lend you and wait for you to repay the advance over 12 years. I mean, over, let's say, 24 months or 36 months. No, it always happens within 1 year. Same thing for accounts receivable financing or accounts receivable factoring. Okay, so when you hear the term invoice financing or accounts receivable financing, those are interchangeable. They mean the same thing. So the point I'm trying to make here is that when you think about applying for a working capital loan, be sure about the specific type that you want to apply for. And let's talk now about, I want to quickly talk about, I want to give you a few pro tips. Okay. And so what should you really do if you want to increase working capital? Because see, if you need a working capital loan for your LLC in the first place, it's because all along you were not able to manage the working capital for your LLC. You're not able to manage your short-term assets versus short-term liabilities. There was a delta, there was a gap, and that gap resulted in a void, in a liquidity void, and that cash void is what's really prompting you now to look for an LLC working capital loan. See, I'm trying to go a little deep so you have a clear understanding of what we talk about when we mention the term LLC working capital loans. So how do you actually increase your LLC working capital loan so you never have to resort to a loan in the first place? Try to increase prices, boss. Have you seen the prices lately? I'm not talking about gas prices. Have you tried to buy some groceries? Are you seeing what's happening? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, when you sit and think about where we were before COVID and what happened after COVID, you're like, wow, what the F has happened? Everything has gone, that prices have gone up. It's crazy everywhere. The funny thing is, last night I had a cousin who was talking. She was like, yeah, my price literally doubled. So, you like, she loves bananas, and she was talking about, yeah, I used to buy bananas for this price. Now I'm buying double. It's crazy. So the thing is, you want to increase price, boss. You want to increase your prices. You want to raise your prices in your business so that you can actually raise your revenue a little bit. And you want to try to diversify your sources of revenue, try to add other streams of revenue, okay? And try to implement late payment penalties so that your accounts receivable can be better. So if you have customers who are like, they love to be late when it comes to paying, hey, listen, there are penalties, so now they understand. You want to cut down on expenses too for your LLCs. I'm just giving you a few things here and there that you can do so that you can actually beef up your LLCs liquidity levels, okay? By the way, boss, again, time again to contextualize the conversation we're having today. I'm explaining to you what are we talking about in today's topic. How do you, like LLC, the best working capital loan options, and how to get approved real quick. Okay, so the bottom line here is for you to actually manage your LLC's working capital properly, you want to carefully monitor your expenses. You want to improve your receivables collection. You want to pay your vendors on time, and you want to reinvest in your business. It's all about increasing your ROI down the road. I want to give you the approach that I want you to pay attention to. Okay, how do you actually? So, what are the best working capital loans for your LLC? There are many, but we love a few of them. We love Loan Builder, we love On Deck, we love Credibly, and we love American Express Merchant Financing. I want to quickly talk to you about those four, so you really know what we're talking about when we have a conversation about LLC working capital loan. So, Loan Builder is actually a PayPal service. So this is kind of cool. And the thing is that now PayPal actually finances LLCs, small businesses in general, up to $500,000. So this working capital loan goes from $5,000 all the way to $500,000. Okay, and so this short-term loans come in the form of a one lump sum that you will have to repay plus interest with weekly payments over a term of 12, like a term that is as high as 13 weeks or as long as 52 weeks. So this is really, it's kind of cool. And then you have On Deck. On Deck has a number of working capital loan options for LLCs, including short-term loans and business lines of credit. And On Deck's working capital loans range from $5,000 all the way up to $250,000, and you can be approved in as few as 24 hours. And you also have Credibly. So Credibly is also great. They have working capital loans that go from $5,000 all the way to $400,000, and the repayment term ranges from 6 to 18 months. So this is kind of cool. And then you have another one that's American Express Merchant Financing, and Amex does offer working capital loans to businesses that process American Express credit card transactions from customers. And so you will receive a lump sum anywhere from $5,000 all the way to $2 million, which you will repay, of course, plus interest plus a fee. One thing I want to say here is that it goes all the way to $2 million because Amex will look at the volume of transactions you process through their network. Okay, so again, this Amex Merchant Financing is great for business owners who accept Amex credit cards and need a large lump sum to finance working capital. So Amex is just trying to take care of its own. So what's the bottom line here? I've just given you 4 working capital lenders for LLCs, and basically you got to find, there are many more. We actually have we had an entire show that talked about this. So if you are interested in learning more, just drop us a question in the comment section. We'll get back to you. But the bottom line here is that you need to actually analyze, you need to evaluate your short-term cash inflows versus your short-term cash outflows, so that you don't have to be in a situation where you need a working capital loan in the first place for your LLC. So here are the steps I really want you to really pay attention to when it comes to finding a working capital loan for your LLC and using this LLC working capital loan appropriately. So the thing is, if you want to find a working capital loan for your LLC, what you want to do here is you want to, and this is a step-by-step that we have actually developed over several years, and basically you want to calculate your existing working capital to determine how much financing you need, right? Again, going back to what I said about the formula, when we talk about working capital, the equation is what? Short-term assets minus short-term liabilities. In other words, current assets minus current liabilities. That's the definition of working capital. So you want to calculate your existing working capital. You want to actually determine which type of loan is best for your business. If you remember, we mentioned a couple of loans: business line of credit, working capital loan, MCA, accounts receivable financing, and so on and so forth, right? You want to evaluate your LLC's credit history, annual revenue, time in business, and other qualifications. And what you want to do here is, after doing that, you want to analyze the delta, if there are deltas, if there are ratios, if there are if there are variances in all the metrics you have actually calculated. And what you want to do here is you want to compare top working capital lenders and find the one that really offers the specific type of loan that your LLC is looking for and whose requirements you can meet. Because it's not about, hey, listen, yeah, I can qualify for this LLC working capital loan, but if you can't qualify, you're just wasting your time, right? Just wasting your time. And you also need, so after doing that, you want to gather your documents and submit an application, and then complete the closing process and receive your funds. Not a problem at all. So this is kind of cool. But remember, in general, the best way to actually make sure you are using your working capital loans properly for your LLC, you use the cash to cover seasonal gaps, to take advantage of growth opportunities, prepare for an emergency. Okay, you want to pay short-term debt obligations for your LLCs, your LLC rather. You want to have peace of mind to cover operational costs, to actually cover payroll, to make payroll, to cover, like, to pay inventory, like basically trying to really be at peace in the short run. Now, here is a winner strategy for you. Okay, so if you want to apply for a working capital loan for your LLC, you need to understand, you want to look at you want to basically look at your credit reports. And here we're speaking about looking at your LLC deep in and out. So you got to really engage in a holistic analysis, whereby you really look at the credit score for your LLC at the business level, but your own credit score also. So we're talking about looking at your FICO score on one end and look at your PDET score on the other hand, right? So you have a clear idea what's really happening and whether or not what kind of caliber, which side your LLC is swinging to. Okay, so the thing is that if you are checking your business and personal credit reports, you can have an idea of what kind of working capital loans you could qualify for. So understanding your credit is an important and often overlooked part of setting your business up for success, because lenders usually have requirements for the credit scores you'll need to qualify, as long as how long your LLC has to be in business. So you want to review those requirements prior to applying, so to make sure you can qualify. And you want to look at the working capital loan interest rates, the working capital loan fees. Okay, you got to ask yourself, is the working capital loan right for your LLC at this specific time? And one thing I want you to really pay attention to is the eligibility criteria. So what kind of criteria are lenders looking for in terms of operational efficiency, and in terms of longevity? How long have you been in business? Okay, and do they lend to startups? Credit score requirements, revenue requirements, profit margin requirements. Some lenders go as far as asking you to provide accounts receivable turnover, accounts payable turnover. Like, we really get into liquidity and short-term ratios. So if they want that, you need to calculate that and to make sure that you do meet those requirements. Okay, and the question is, can you afford the payments? Because it's not about, hey, listen, I want a working capital loan up to $250,000. Okay, and I'm asking you to repay me like $5,000 every month, but I'm only generating revenue of $3,000 or even $10,000, or I'm generating excess cash of $2,000 every month. So basically, there is a delta there because what you're generating versus the amount of cash outflow that you need to allocate for that working capital loan, there is a mismatch. So you will never be approved, because you're not generating enough cash in the short term to handle the payments to handle the payments that are inherent in the working capital loan for your LLC. So this is the kind of analysis I want you to really do first before you even step into a bank. Is you step into a bank's branch or a credit union's branch, or even pick up the phone and call an alternative lender or an online lender and ask for an LLC loan, a working capital loan. You need to make sure that you are able to repay whatever loan that the lender is giving you. So this is really, 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 really pivotal. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I was just talking to you about LLC, the best working capital loan options, and how to get approved right off the bat. So I gave you an overview, the bonus. I give you a bonus here. I explained to you in the review what kind of loans we're talking about. I gave you a few pro tips, the approach you need to follow, the steps, and the winner. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.